Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Our discussion today is about publication process in the digital era. All right. There are three persons who have responsibility for the ethical and efficient handling of a manuscript. The first is the author or the writer of the manuscript. Submit the manuscript to a journal. It is received by an editor. Editor is helped by a reviewer who has responsibility to read and give review and then give recommendation to the editor, and then according to the recommendation of the reviewer, the editor decide whether the manuscript is good enough to approve or to publish. And then the third is publishers, who has responsibility to publish the manuscript. All right, now the publication process. The first process of publication is author submits manuscript and it is received by the journal editor. The journal editor screens the manuscript. The word screen means read the manuscript, then decide whether the manuscript is rejected or approved. If the manuscript is rejected, the benefit of the rapid rejection in screening is the author directly, without waiting too long, the author directly knows that the manuscript is rejected, and he can decide to resend or to send the manuscript to other journal perhaps. Okay, and if the rejection because of the quality of the manuscript is too low, so the benefit is the reviewer in the next step is the reviewers do not have to review a very poor quality of manuscript. Okay, the next step is the manuscript is being peer reviewed by the reviewers who are the expert at the field of the topic in the manuscript, and the reviewer then give recommendation to the journal editor, so that the journal editor decide whether the manuscript is good enough to publish or not, and then the decisions is informed to the author. All right, the next is screening. We talk more about screening. While the editor screening the manuscript, the editor select the manuscript based on these questions. The first is, does the manuscript fit the journal scope and aim, and will it be of interest to the reader? So the manuscript should fit the scope and the aim of the journal, and also the manuscript should be interesting enough for the readers. And then the second is the manuscript of minimum acceptable quality. So the quality of the manuscript should be good enough. And then the third is the content and the writing good enough to make it worth reviewing. Yeah, as I said before, that the manuscript that is approved by the process of screening means the manuscript is good enough to be reviewed. And then the fourth is the manuscript compliant with the journal's instruction for authors. Every journal has its own instruction, its own requirement for the author, such as the structure, the content, and maybe the language used in the journal, and etc. Okay, so the authors, if the authors want the manuscripts is approved, so he has to fulfill the instruction, the requirement. All right, the next step is peer review process. Yeah, after the scientists study something and write the finding into a manuscript, then he sent the manuscript to journal editor, and then journal editor sent the manuscript to reviewers, which are the experts at the field. Peer reviewers read the manuscript, the article, and provide feedback to the editor. Yeah, they are not the ones who have to decide whether the manuscript is accepted or rejected. Yeah, the decision maker is editor. There are two possible decisions. The first, if the manuscript finally meet editorial and peer standards, it is published in a journal. And then the second is editor may send reviewer comments to the scientists, to the authors, so may then revise and resubmit the article for further review. Actually, this is another possibility. If the manuscript does not maintain sufficiently high scientific standard, it may be rejected at this point. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This one is the common instruction, the common procedure of journal publication. Yeah, but every journal has their own procedure. For example, this one, Elsevier, has a very strict procedure. Yeah, we can see after submission, based on the basic criteria, it can be rejected, and based on the screening, it can be rejected or accepted. After screening, then the reviewers, reviewer 1, reviewer 2, review the manuscript, and then the result might be no or yes. If no, it is the responsibility of reviewer 4 to review and then give feedback to self editor. Or if yes, there is a English grammar and language review. It is also one of consideration to self editor. And then if it is yes, the recommendation from the reviewers is given to the author. The author then revise the manuscript and resubmit to self-editor. And this part is the second peer review by reviewer 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in this part there is a possibility to being rejected and return to the author. And Of course, it can also accept it for publication. Editorial board meeting or issue designation. Yeah, there is a meeting between the editor, the publisher, the author to discuss about the publication process and then publishing process. Yeah, it's quite too long, and so it is strict procedure. Of course, not all journal has such a strict procedure like this. Some of them is quite simple the procedure. All right, let's talk about final decision. There are 5 possible decisions. The first is accept without any change or acceptance. But it rarely happened because I think a perfect manuscript is impossible. Yeah. Except if the author is a very expert person. Okay. The second is accept with minor revision, acceptance. Yeah, it's still acceptance with minor revisions. Yeah, perhaps the writing aspects such as punctuation, paragraph, or some small ideas in the manuscripts. And then the third is accept after major revision. So this is minor and this is major. Conditional acceptance, which mean the topic or the manuscript is accepted, but the authors have to revise and resubmit. Yeah. And the fourth is revise and resubmit, which mean conditional rejection. The difference between conditional rejection and conditional acceptance is conditional rejection, there is no guarantee that after the author revise and resubmit the manuscript, then the editor will accept the manuscripts. Yeah, there is no guarantees. It can be rejected again. Okay, the fifth is reject the paper, outright rejection, or I call it final rejections, which mean the author cannot resubmit the manuscript again to the journal. Perhaps you have to find another journal. Right. It's about author's responsibilities. The author's responsibilities are in 4 areas. The first is preparing the manuscript for submissions. Yeah, of course, it's based on the instruction and the requirement of the journal. And then B, attending to administrative and ethical responsibilities. The third, complying with publisher policy requirements. Yeah, it's about administrative, ethical, and policies such as copywriting, for example, or the proof that the manuscript is authentic, and then the rules that the author cannot publish the manuscript to another publication in the internet. Yeah. And then the next is D, working with the publisher during the production process. Yeah, perhaps there is a meeting to discuss about the publication process, or perhaps the fee, or how to process the typing and the format of the writing and etc. Yeah, I cannot discuss further about these four topics because I think these topics will be delivered by my friends at the next presentation. Okay, that's all from me. uh, thank you so much. Akhirul kalam, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.